Hey, what's up? Jordan Saw here. Thank you for tuning in. Today's video is taken from a piece that I wrote on the Belvedere Temple. If you'd like to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description. The album that we're going to be looking at today is Soil by Priddy Ugly. So let's get into it. Before we take a deep dive into the project, let's establish a little bit of context. So Priddy Ugly hasn't dropped music since 2019, well, an overall project since 2019. His last release was Glory on Any Territory. And prior to that, it was Egypt, which was his major label album with Ambitious. That one had a little bit of a lukewarm reception, but fast forward to now, we have Soil, which had pretty much awesome like rollouts. I think the rollout was really good with how they built anticipation and how they released the track list and how they had the documentary going on. And if you watch the documentary, where they just go around and just speak to everybody that contributed on the project, they managed to build anticipation quite well, where a lot of the producers will sort of mention their favorite song and just the overall direction, and it really reels you into like, okay, cool, this might be something. How they did the rollout, it really builds up expectations. For me personally, I was really excited to hear like what Priddy Ugly has to cook up, especially looking at the people that were involved in the overall project. You know, it was really exciting. And with the documentary, as much as the more I watched it, the more I felt like there was a bit of a disconnect, especially because when they were talking about the music, it was music that we hadn't heard before. And I get why they did it that way. It felt like it was done the other way around. Like they could have dropped the music, then dropped the documentary. And when you listen to it, you're like, ooh. But at the same time, I understand it, because once you listen to the music after you've watched the documentary, everything sort of falls into place. Fast forward to Priddy Ugly dropping the project, and actually not the project, because he actually started off with the first official single, which was Soil. And that was accompanied by a nice music video. And I have to say that Soil sort of maps the journey and sets the mood for the overall project. Like it shows us where Priddy Ugly is in terms of sonics and sound, because if you look at what's going on right now, a lot of South African hip hop music is more focused into, you know, it's either the trap, especially like, you know, the new artists, it's more trap orientated, and then you have like the Yano sound. So that's where South Africa is in terms of just like overall music sonically. And then Priddy came out with Soil, which was sort of a more removed approach from everything that's going on, which in a sense was refreshing to see him go in a different direction. But this very direction that he decided to take kind of serves as a pro and a con for the overall project. And we'll discuss that and like dissect that a lot more. But it really does, again, feed into that anticipation that they managed to build. Like Soil feeds into that anticipation. You feel like, okay, cool, they're onto something. This is nice. You know, I want to hear more. And then when you move on to Let Me Out, I would say it's very disappointing, especially because of subject matter. You know, Priddy Ugly sort of referencing the whole Black Lives Matter throughout the song, and, you know, taking a political stance. And the reason why I was disappointed is, you know, it sounds like, you know, when a trapper makes trap music and they know, if I talk about women, codeine, Zans, it's a bop, you know? And Priddy Ugly sort of did the exact same thing, but for rap, you know? So if we're rapping and we're trying to sound rap conscious, what are we gonna talk about? Of course, let's talk about Black Lives Matter. You know what I mean? And that topic is so far removed from what's actually going on in South Africa that it just makes the project feel disconnected and tone deaf. Already from a production standpoint, it's going in a different direction, which is completely okay. But then the production is ignoring the schematics, what's going on, and then the subject matter is ignoring the schematics of what's going on. You know, it just feels very removed and feels like a completely different universe. With the first part of the project, you'd find yourself just getting through it, you know? You'd find yourself just getting through it and it feeling just like a piece of music that, okay, cool, we're listening to it. And things do get better, especially at the whoa parts. And I understand why a lot of people were like, a lot of the producers were very hyped around the song. But the hype of the song on the actual documentary just became its biggest downfall. Not that it's a bad song, it's actually quite a nice song, but it also just feels underdone, it feels uninspired, it feels plain, you know? It feels plain, the production is too laid back and a little bit rough, you know? And I think this is an occurring theme throughout the first half of the project. And things actually get exciting on Loose Change. This is where the project really takes off. This is where the project gets really, really good. You know what I mean? Like the hook on Loose Change is awesome. You know, the production on Loose Change is awesome. And I believe that the sequencing of the projects gets so much better. I think the overall sequencing of the project is fairly decent, but from the pocket of Loose Change, of Dead Jungle, and Rap Relay, the project really, really, really sounds good. This is where things are just interesting. I'd have to say that if the project started on the note of Loose Change, it would be a bit more exciting and a bit more of a better listening experience if there wasn't such a seriousness to try and rap, you know, with Priddy Ugly trying so hard to prove that he's a rapper, that he's a good rapper, and you know, it really becomes tired and annoying. But again, like that sequencing of 3 songs really is that project's saving grace. It's the project's saving grace. It feels fresh and it feels inspired. You know, one big compliment that I have for this project, it's the feature selection. Every single feature on this project bodied, from Blackie to Zulu Mecca to HD, Maclera Doughboy, all of them really, really bodied it. One of my favorite was on, I think, Dead Jungle. HD was my personal favorite, and this guy sounds just like Jay-Z. Like when I first heard it, I was like, whoa, who's this guy that sounds like Jay-Z? I think Blackie's feature is also very impressive. Zulu Mecca on Let Me Out. As much as Let Me Out is not a good song at all, but Zulu Mecca really, really sort of saves that song and goes in. He really, really goes in. I sat with this for some time trying to pick out like good moments and trying to pick out like the angle really. And in 2021, you know, trying to rap is a dying art, you know? I think there is a pocket of people that appreciate that, but nowadays it's more about, you know, music that sounds and feels good, and Soil does not sound nor feel good aside from like the 3 or 4 songs towards the end, because the last song is just absolutely just, yeah, I don't even know what was going on there, you know? But I think aside from the 4 songs, that 4 to 5 songs, which is like 50% of a 30-minute long album, it just leaves you feeling like this could have been better served as an EP, you know? Another thing to take note of, if we compare Soil to what Reese has done earlier this year to what 25K has done recently, you sort of feel like Soil is far less memorable and far less impactful and isn't very good in comparison to those albums. It doesn't offer a listening experience as similar. I do believe that Priddy Ugly's core fan base would probably have a greater appreciation for this album as opposed to people that are trying to get into Priddy Ugly or trying to listen to music that is more easygoing and more enjoyable. And Salt doesn't present itself as an easygoing or enjoyable album. It takes itself too seriously. It tries to be too political. It tries to prove too much of a point when it comes to the rap aspect. Priddy Ugly is trying to prove that he's a rapper and he's good at rapping. I believe that Priddy Ugly sort of allowed his urge to prove a point get in the way of actually making really good music, where the music just sounds so one-dimensional. It doesn't connect or resonate to what's going on. Priddy Ugly could have made a better album, you know, if he took himself less seriously and didn't try to prove so much of a point. If you've enjoyed watching this video and you'd like to see more content like this, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.